My business is your business. It's all within my lady business with me, Mary Nisi. Hello, everybody. I have such a treat for you. They're all treats. This treat is especially sweet. I have the one and only amazing Jana Kinsman. She is a beekeeper and an illustrator from here in Chicago. And that is one way to put her. It's like calling me like I'm just a DJ. Like we both we both do so many things that there's it's hard to kind of put it all into one bite-sized chunk of ease.
Mhm.
But let's try to unpack you today. Jana, thank you so much for being on All Up in My Lady Business.
I'm so jazzed to be here.
I can't
Finally.
I can't believe this took so long.
I mean, it's yeah, there's more interesting people out there and we see each other all the time, so I get it.
So where do we start? Let's talk about I mean, Jana, so you have been keeping but she has a so Jana has a couple companies. She's got a company called Bike-a-Bee, and that's actually how I met her back in the day from she actually helped me out of a jam my first year of beekeeping when I had some serious shit going down and the person who was helping me was out of town and I'm like I
Oh,
read about this
yeah.
person, and then you came and we discovered that there was a bee with a penis hanging out of it, and that's why she wasn't laying. And then
Yes,
you
that's right.
then you pulled the bee penis or the beenus out of the queen's butt, and then when I went back in a week later, she was laying. So look at you.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was a wild summer. You always had the weirdest things happening to your hives.
Do.
Yeah.
That's a never-ending, supply of information. Maybe we'll get to that. Jana also has a company that I would have found her if the beekeeping thing hadn't happened, Doodlebooth, which is a company that does or it's her, she comes and does live, well, you how do you describe it?
Yeah, it's just live portraits, so they're very quick pen and ink, black and white drawings, take about 2 to 3 minutes per person, so it's not a very big involved caricature, but it's something small and cute, and I do it frequently at events like weddings and corporate parties where they want something that's a little, like, higher end, and I can draw, like, 22 people an hour, so I cover a lot more guests than, like, a typical caricature artist.
And you're probably covering a more guests than a typical photo booth probably even gets to just because I mean, just as far as I know from the photo booth images that we get, I mean, that comes out to what, like 80 people in a 4 hour how long do you do it for?
Typically, people book me for, like, 3 hours, but yeah.
Okay, so 60 people, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Or 60 more than that. And I do have to say, you do such a great job of getting, like, the joie de vivre or, like, what do you
The
the
essence
s
the
the
essence of
essence,
people.
the spark within, the
Mhm.
Danchen, and you're so good at it. So
Thank you.
let's talk about how we got to all these places. Which came first, the drawing or the bees?
It's actually funny because they came sort of together. They both happened in the same year. So I left my job that I had as a graphic designer at Crate& and Barrel, and I went on this, like, cross country journey to, like I took a beekeeping apprenticeship out in Eugene, Oregon, and then I came back to Chicago and put together, like, a Kickstarter to get Bike-a-Bee started, and I think
Starter.
yeah, remember
Does this
that?
does that still exist?
In some form, it must, and I don't know what people do with it anymore, but it's certainly not the Wild West that it felt like back in
Yeah.
2011. Oh my god.
We
Um,
used a Kickstarter to get the chirp station up and running,
yeah, I
2011.
mean, I have, like, so many friends that I still have today that we all just really got really solid footing thanks to Kickstarter.
So you were a graphic designer for Crate& and Barrel for how long?
For 3 years, I think, I was a corporate graphic designer. They hired me, I think, when I was 22 or 23, fresh out of design school, and I got this incredible job with amazing mentors, and I worked for them doing, like, graphics for a long time, and then for years after that, I continued working with them, creating these little illustrated plates that they sold through CB2. So I did that probably in total for, like, 7 years.
Wow. And so people have, like, plates, they eat off plates that you designed?
Yes, and it's a thing, like, I still get messages about it, they're sold on eBay, people collect all of them, like, my grandma and my aunt collected full sets, I have an ex-boyfriend whose mom was just, like, crazy about them and has the whole set, so they're very cute.
Goodness, so that's amazing. So
Yeah.
why did you leave Crate and Barrel with all of that awesomeness happening?
Well, I mean, the doing the plates was incredible, and I'm so glad I got to keep doing that, but my position had started changing at the corporate graphics team. They had hired, like, a marketing company that was doing most of the creative work, so I kind of became, like, a production designer, and kind of at that same time, I was, like, very involved with a lot of design groups in Chicago, and I had started one of my own, which I can't believe I haven't told you about. It was called Quite Strong, and it was me and 4
Mm,
other women, and we were, like, all about women in graphic design because all the design celebrities were all men, but in the field of graphics itself, it was pretty evenly split 50-50. So, we were all about, like, "Yeah, more women in graphic design, like, let's give them a voice," and we held a couple conferences called MoxieCon where we had people come and talk about, like, running your own business and doing taxes and how to promote yourself, and it was a riot. We, like, talked at conferences and
what?
I
This is
know, I
amazing.
always forget it. We were, like, in Dwell magazine, like, it was a thing. It was so
What?
fun.
So, how many years did you have MoxieCon?
I think we did MoxieCon 2 or 3 years.
Do you own that name?
I don't remember. I don't know. I'd have to ask. Maybe Jennifer still knows. I'm not sure. I still talk with all the gals from it too. They're all
Um,
great. They got families. They live all over the country.
wow, that's amazing. When was that?
That must have been like in the 2010, 2011, 2012 era.
You leave Crate and Barrel in the midst of doing all this stuff, or were you doing that after you left?
It was sort of in the midst, and then after I left, it was ongoing. But it was I think the big stuff started happening once I had, left. It was funny, I remember because when I met the 4 other girls, it was like I was the one that had the corporate job, and everyone else was freelancing, and then, by the end of it, I was, like, the one it was, like, me and one other gal were freelancing, just doing all sorts of weird stuff, and then the other gals had landed at, like, really cool design agencies and were, like, really, like, taking off, so it was kind of a funny flip-flop there.
That's amazing. I had no idea. So when you left to go on this, like, Blonde Ambition tour to, Oregon to learn beekeeping, had you done anything with bees prior to that?
I had taken one class in the it must have been in the fall of maybe it was, like, like, January or February in 2011, and I had
Huh?
taken that class because I was, of course, dating somebody at the time who was really interested in, like, urban homesteading, and I was not that person, if you can believe it, Mary. I was like, eating Yoplait yogurt and drinking Diet Coke at my corporate
Mhm.
job, and he was so fascinating to me, and I realized I was just so much more fascinated with him than I was actually in love with him, but he got me down this path of, like, "Oh, if I was doing any sort of, agriculture, what would I wanna do?" And I really found growing vegetables very tedious, and it wasn't to my liking, but I always was interested in bees, like, I did my final project in graphic design school on bees. So I just took this class with the honey co-op randomly, and I was, like, in love, just taking pages and pages of notes. I was so fascinated, and that kinda set off this weird chain of events that I won't get into, but eventually that spring, I left my job and was just kinda traveling. I went out to Washington. I was living in the San Juan Islands out there for, like, a month, and then I came back to Chicago, was sleeping on someone's couch, doing freelance design, like, just traveling, to various, like, Ohio, Michigan, and then that fall, I decided to do through the woofing website, Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms, I found a beekeeping apprenticeship in Eugene, Oregon, so I took my bike on the Amtrak out to Oregon. I rode my bike from Portland to Eugene, and then I spent, like, 3 weeks working with this beekeeper out there, and eventually I had to come home because I had a bunch of stuff stolen from, like, a package that I had mailed myself, and things just kind of went bad, But that when I was out there with Philip, he had these partnerships with community, like, people. Like, one was an elementary school, one was, like, this couple, one was a blueberry farm, and he just had these partnerships where he had hives at their properties, and we would just spend the whole day in his pickup truck. We'd, like, go to a grocery store, get a six-pack of beer, drive around in the pickup truck, checking these hive sites out and checking out these bees, and then, like, we wouldn't even really carry much in the truck, and I was like I was such a cyclist at the time that I was like, "I could do the same thing back in Chicago and just do it with my bicycle," and I would get, like, a trailer with, like, a Rubbermaid bin, and I'd carry all my stuff around in with the bike. So then that winter, after I'd come back, that apprenticeship was, like, in October 2011, and so that winter, I just spent, like, coming up with this Kickstarter idea for Bike-a-Bee, and I, like, came up with the name, and because I have this branding background, I had created this whole brand with all the graphics and everything, and then I launched it on Kickstarter, and it got a lot of press. Like, Grist reported about it, like, BEZ, like, all these, like, places because it was such a novel idea. And so it got I think I asked for $7,000 and I ended up getting, like, over $8,000. And then that spring 2012, I started the my 10 hives. I was working with community gardeners, and it, like, all came together, so ever since then, I've just been, like, leveling up year after year. It's
How many
crazy.
hives are you managing right now?
I'm managing 65 colonies.
That's a lot. You touch all 65 every week?
No, no. I, uh, I think about them every day, all of them, though, but I kinda just monitor which ones are gonna need what and which ones I can, like, figure out, like, what when the timing is best to visit them.
And then do you get all the honey from those?
Mhm.
That's cool. So they're basically just paying do you pay t are you getting paid to manage them, or do you just get paid in the honey? Or both?
I have for years, I didn't have any contracts, and I just owned all of the hives, and I every drop of honey that I harvested, I sold, and that's how I pay myself is just through honey sales. But as I've gotten bigger and more well known, I've been able to get some more, like, contract beekeeping. So this year, I'm partnering with 2, like, 2 institutions that I'm putting hives on their roofs, and then last year, I also became the first beekeeper in Chicago to be a CPS vendor. So I keep
Ooh.
bees at, the Southside Occupational Academy, in Auburn Gresham, and that's just, like, fantastic. I manage, like, 7, 8 hives down there. So I have some, like, contracts that are, like yeah, and then so then it's set up that they own the bees, I just do all the maintenance, and then I harvest all the honey and hand it over to them. They do the bottling. For the school, it's, like, a great way for the kids to get involved in, like, creating a product. So it's
Then
really
so
everyone
d
kinda looks different.
yeah, so the school one, do you, like, teach them about it? Are you, like, going in and showing the kids, like, what a frame is, etcetera?
No, and that's not the c I can't do that because, I learned in that process that the insurance that you need in order to interface with kids at the CPS is, like it would cost me, like, $7,000 a year, and I can't get it. I tried to get it so bad, but now I can't even go on the school, while school is in session in the property, so I have to go after hours to check on the hives, which is unfortunate. Like, they could always have me as a guest to do, like, an educational thing, which is, like, always a possibility, but, um, the insurance requirements, it's a sexual abuse and molestation insurance.
Yeah.
I feel like this is, like I don't know, it's kinda scandalous in my mind, like, the insurance cost is just kind of bananas. But, yeah, unfortunately, it's not I don't get to have that dynamic, but with the other contracts, like, if they wanna do an education session or have me talk about the bees, that's definitely a possibility.
It is crazy that you have to get sexual abuse and molestations. That's what the insurance covers?
That's what it's called.
Wow, that's such like a veiled threat. Like, that's such a not veiled threat. I mean, it's I guess if you strip it really far back, it's like just like that is such a problem that they have to insure against, like, that they can't let any like, there's been enough issues with it that they have to have that I mean, they must. I mean, they can't they had to have been incidences or else they wouldn't have forced you to get specifically that insurance.
I think what I heard, and this is maybe hearsay, is that there was just one incident that was mishandled, and this creating this requirement was just kind of like the extreme swing of the
Mhm.
pendulum. So I don't necessarily think it's the right thing to do, but it's just what absolutely like what happened. And it yeah, I think it's messed up in general, unrelated to like CPS, that there is even an insurance for that sort of thing, but I guess there is.
Well, no, I mean, on like, for us up in here in Evanston, John wanted to be a chaperone for a field trip,
Yeah,
and, he had to go do a background check and get his fingerprints done in order to be a chaperone for the field trip, and, like,
yeah.
I mean, I suppose it's one of these things where, like, at least we know everyone's safe, I guess, but on the other side of it, it's like, um can you imagine if you've got something that I don't know, like, if you get denied to be a I don't know, it seems really sad and hard that this is where we're at, that we can't even just do nice things. Like, there has to be, like, mitigation around it all.
Yeah, well, it's like a very systemic problem, like this lack of community trust and, yeah, liability culture in general, but that's a whole 'nother thing.
I mean, we're not gonna solve it today, but
No.
it's like I mean, not that this is the same thing at all, but, like, when Taylor Swift was playing in Australia, like, apparently there's a train line that goes right into the stadium where she played, and it was, like, the same thing in Argentina, and, like, just the idea of, like, there's no security, like, there's no metal detectors, there's no anything, and so, like, everybody every American that went was just like, "I cannot believe how safe and open and easy it was to get there," and, like there's not a stadium I mean, I don't know, I don't go to many, football stadiums that aren't in Chicago, but I have to imagine that they all have it's parking lots, and you gotta drive, and they're in the middle of fucking nowhere, and, like, it's just an interesting it just gets me to the idea of, like, just the
That's
police.
that's bananas. Oh
Mhm.
my gosh.
Mhm. I mean, the police
Wow.
culture that has, like, kind of, infiltrated everything and made it so
Everything.
that it's so gross and weird. But, uh but yeah, so anyway, so you're n
Anyway,
so that's cool that you keep it at the school, and so then you give the honey to the kids, and then they've got a product that they can sell and then fundraise with?
yeah, selling fundraiser, just even the activity of bottling and stuff and labeling is really cool to be involved in for them. So, yeah.
So then when did the doodle booth of it all come into the
Yes, so the other part of that story is, it must have also been, I'd have to look at my records, but it must have been also the winter of 2011 when I was putting together the Kickstarter for Bike-a-Bee that I also, came up with the concept for Doodle Booth. So, what happened was there was, like, a fundraiser slash holiday party happening at Firebelly Design, and they invited me to come and I could, like, sell some prints to, like, raise money for this cause that they're supporting, and I was like, "Well, I don't really have prints, but what if I just came and offered portraits for, like, $10, just sat in the corner and I could do live portraits?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure, give it a try." And so I set up a little table and I had my paper and I just drew people and I scanned the drawings and then I gave them the original and then I sent them the scanned drawing. And I had so much fun. I was like, the same thing happened where I was like, "I'm gonna turn this into a business." And I came up with the name Doodle Booth and I put together like kind of like a concept, like pitch. I don't even know what I would call it, like just an idea. And then I brought it to my friends at the time he was like having like salons where you could like present an idea and talk with like really smart people about what you were doing.
How do
So I
you find
brought Doodle
access to
Booth
these
to that.
people?
This was all, I swear to God, this was all like design Twitter, and Quite Strong was like the place to be back in 2010, 2011. I made so many friends in Chicago just through the design scene that I'm still like really good friends with today. And like that like opened all these amazing doors for me. So it's just so funny to be who I am today but so many of those people I met back when it was like Jana Kinsman, graphic design illustrator. But yeah, it was like just great. I brought it to these friends. I pitched this idea. They're like, this is a great idea. So then I like just made up a website and did like a little photo shoot with examples of like what I was doing. And my first big client was actually Crate and Barrel because the plates that I was releasing had a following enough that like we would do a promotional tour during the holidays to have Jana from, Oliver fame. The plates are called Oliver plates. It's gonna be in store at this date. You can get your portrait drawn by her and get your plates signed or whatever. So I was, like, going to Toronto, New York, like, San Francisco to these stores and, like, meeting fans of the plates and then drawing portraits at the same time. So that was amazing to have that as, like, a first client and to get to do all that traveling, and I'm just so grateful for that. That, like,
Well,
really floated me.
not to mention that you had a really great place to test pilot what it what where the foibles are, like, where's the problem? Like, you know, when you say you were, scanning them, what were like, at the first event, what were you scanning them with? Like your your big computer printer scanner?
No, I have a little portable scanner, and I would bring it with my computer, and I did that for years until I got a portable scanner that was just, like, standalone that you could then, like, hook up to your computer later. But honestly, the format of Doodlebooth has not changed at all. I, like, started using a different paper, and pens have changed over the years, but the only thing that's changed a lot is, like, my style and my, like, portraits per hour speed. Because I used to take forever. I would draw, like, 8 people an hour. I would start in pencil, and then I would trace it in pen. But now I just crank them out. I do go direct to pen, straight on the paper. Like, it's such a second nature to me now that I can just really go through it, and it's still basically the same premise, is you sit down and you get your portrait drawn by me.
It's so cool.
It's very fun.
And it's interesting how the universe kept putting in front of you these ways to make this all work. You know, like, I mean, was the Kickstarter that was post quite strong?
Yeah, it was, like, kinda current Quite Strong because like, even the Kickstarter video, I remember we filmed it in the Quite Strong studio. We rented this little storefront on Milwaukee Avenue off of Milwaukee Avenue. So, like, we filmed it there, and that's where I was, like, doing all of my computer work and design stuff to, like, get the project going. And I was putting in a lot of work, like, doing cold calls and stuff, to get it promoted, but it was kinda concurrent.
I guess the thing is that, like, for you to go to the guy in Oregon and do your, figuring out like, "Oh, I'll just do this with my bike and I'll figure it out." Like, you just came back and just what was the time span between the Kickstarter and that apprenticeship? Like, months?
Months. Yeah, like,
So,
I
it's
the
just,
Kickstarter was
like,
in October, and then or the apprenticeship was in October, and then I put the Kickstarter together. Uh, I think I launched it in January of 2012.
in 3 months, you completely changed the entire trajectory of your life.
Yeah, but I had, like, no idea. Like, it was like yeah, I mean, I guess I did, but at the time, it was just like, "Here's another project I'm gonna embark on." And then I was still simultaneously, like, doing freelance design for years while I was doing Bike-a-Bee and Doodlebooth.
Just the confidence of putting together, I mean, the Kickstarter of it all is, I mean, I don't think personally that I would have had the guts to do a Kickstarter 3 months after I learned the thing that I was going to be making the company. I mean, actually, no, that's not, I bet I probably would, but I
You probably
guess
would've if you were
but
freaking 24 or whatever the hell
yeah,
age I was.
sure, youth, the folly of youth, but also just, like, you springing fully formed out of Athena's head, like, or Zeus's head? Athena sprung out of Zeus's head. Uh, just this thing where you're like, "I've got the confidence, and I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna get other people to give me money that then forces me to have to do this, because if I don't do it, then all these people know that I didn't do the thing that I said I was gonna do." Like,
Yeah.
and I know that a lot of Kickstarter projects probably went the way to went the way of the dodo, very soon after getting funded. Um,
I have to say, though, I think it was a very special moment in time for me and the people that I was surrounded with because we everyone who I was friends with at the time, like I was like becoming friends with the guys from Cards Against Humanity.
Mhm.
And when I met them, it was like Cards Against Humanity was nothing. And so I was just surrounded by this culture of people who were like, I'm doing this. This is like you can just invent anything you want. And
Yeah.
if you work hard enough, you can make that your thing. And it was no one was thinking like, how do I want to get rich quick scheme. They were like, no, how do I make this thing that I think is really cool into my reality? We were surrounded by this really exciting, like early 20s age energy, and that kind of just was like you could do anything, you
Yeah.
know. And the worst
It's
thing that could happen is you die.
sure, or it doesn't work. I mean, death is always the
No,
worst
because
thing, but
even if it doesn't work, like just go get another, corporate job. Like go get a job. Like I had a good enough resume. I could go back and do anything I wanted in the design world. But there I was just like, why don't I try something that really makes my heart sing, you know?
mhm. And you really did lean into that because I feel like of all the people I know in the world, I can't imagine you in a corporate environment. And it's like you went from being like the corporate girl to like, yeah, no, thanks ever
I
again.
have to say when I was at Crate, I was like so young and so weird that I brought like a really funny energy there. Like I don't know, I think it was very much to the delight of some of my coworkers that I just like had this really like I was just so young and I was doing all these really fun things in the design world at large. So even if you can imagine like corporate Jana, it's still basically me. 'Cause I just can't not be myself. Like, I remember I
Yeah.
hated I had to wear, like, business casual, So I remember going to Uniqlo and buying 7 pairs of gray jeans in different colors of gray because I just couldn't, like, handle being business casual, so it's funny to think of me like that, but really I was still just exactly true to myself, and I brought that energy to the corporate office, and Crate and Barrel is pretty cool company, and everybody I worked with was really neat, so it worked out fine.
Sure, it's not like you were doing it for like an insurance company or something.
Absolutely not. No, I was still, a graphic designer at my heart.
Also, that's like a coveted job to get out of college. Like, it's like a
I
totally
know.
coveted job to get a job at Crate& and Barrel out of college. Like, is anyone getting cool jobs at Crate& and Barrel out of college anymore? Like,
No, and I graduated in '08. Like, that was the peak of what is it, the Great Recession? And
session.
I
Mhm.
got this bizarre, like, email through a headhunter about, a job at Crate& and Barrel in Northbrook, and I was like, "Well, I guess I'll go take it." And I was working at the time for a family friend who had a, interior design company, and she knew somebody at Crate, and she just, like, put in the good word, but I went out there, my mom drove me out there, and I interviewed, and they liked me so much that they, like, called, like, 20 minutes after the interview, and they were like, "We wanna offer you the position." Th I still have that, like, email printed out after they, like, interviewed me that it just made me so happy, and it was so affirming, and I can't believe I got the job. I was so young, but ultimately, they were just like, "Yeah, your whole portfolio was excellent, but we just thought you would be a really, like, fun person to work with," and that was really nice to hear.
So is Crate& and Barrel the only real job you've ever had? A W-2 job?
That was my that was my last W-2 job before I have a W-2 job now at the Renaissance Society doing, like, art handling and construction, but that's, like, an extremely part-time job, so it's not, like, 9 to 5 W-2, but Crate& and Barrel was my last W-2,
Art handling.
art handling.
Art handling. Yeah, so you are moving paintings.
Yeah,
Okay.
and more.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I've kind of you mentioned these things. I know that you do this art handling job, but like it's like I where did how does that get into factor into everything?
Oh, man. How does it? Okay, it was, like, I think 2017, a friend of a friend I was at this friend of a friend's house with the friend. We were all having hot pot, and he was, like, uh, looking for people to come and help him at the Renaissance Society, where he's, like, the chief exhibitions guy who, like, builds all the shows and works with the artist to like lay out what the show is going to look like and kind of make their dreams happen between the curator and the artist. So he was looking for people just to do demo work because a guy that he had like flaked. And I was like, yeah, it's January. I've got nothing going on. I can help out with that. And then I think 5 years later, I'm still at this museum. But I ended up really liking the work. Every day that I worked there is doing something different. I was also starting to look for a job or not, I'm sorry, not look for a job, look for a house.
Mhm.
So I was like in the process of buying my house and then I stayed on at the Renaissance Society, we call it the Ren, because I was learning construction. I was learning how to hang drywall, tape and mud. I was learning like about flooring, everything I was learning at this job. And then I was coming back to my dilapidated 1912 building that I just bought. And I was like learning how to fix everything in the building. And so I just went through this kind of like construction era. And yeah, I still work there because I love the people at the Ren. I love my boss. I love the challenge. I love learning new things, and every exhibition, you learn how to do something new, and that to me is really like stimulating.
Yeah, I mean, learning a whole construction skill is amazing. Like, that is I mean, that's, like, the dream in many ways. It's just
It's
to
so
get
cool.
paid to, like, learn a new skill.
Exactly. And
And
there
when you
I
say
was.
Renaissance Society, like, for the Renaissance Society, is it, like, Caravaggio Renaissance? Like, what's I mean, you obviously aren't talking to him.
No,
What do you
it's
like
so the name Renaissance Society is like the true meaning of the word Renaissance, and I think it started. I'm really bad at this, but it started in the early 1910s, and it's in the University of Chicago. And they're essentially like the German concept of a Kunsthal, where it's like a room for art. They don't necessarily have a collection. They just they sponsor or commission new works, and they show contemporary artists. And they have group shows and then solo shows, but most of it is pretty contemporary. And it's kind of like this institution that's an essential part of the art ecosystem where they like are showing newer artists, and then usually what happens is that newer artist goes on to show at a bigger institution, or the whole show at the Ren will get bought out by like MoMA or something. So it's like this feeder institution. So it's really cool and it's really fresh and they're always doing it's all contemporary. And there's lots of really cool fresh ideas coming out of there. And I love getting to meet the artists and learn about their process and see how they work. And it's just really neat.
and is it just financed by the university?
No, they have, like, outside donors and everything like that, but I think the university is a major donor.
So it's not like a University of Chicago lab or something.
No. No, it's they've got a very strange association, they're kind of just like a tenant, but like a special tenant.
No, it's like, I wish that there were more of those, like, places where you could just go to create stuff. Did that used to exist? Was there like a time and a place when, like, there were places to do that? Maybe I'm blanking on that concept, but, like, I would love to, like, have if I had time and bandwidth and money to do so, like, I would love to make, like, an adults craft business, like a place where you can just come in and, like, you need a sewing machine or you want a hole punch or you need an awl to make some leather thing or whatever, just like an adult maker space that, like, everybody knew about. Like, I feel like whenever, like, there's maker spaces, it's always like, it's on the down low or it's only for people that know 3D printing or whatever, and
Yeah,
it would be so cool, wouldn't it?
yeah, yeah. I mean, the Renaissance Society is still a museum, so they don't necessarily do that, but, I agree with you on many levels, and I feel like I've kinda created my life to just be that, but it's not like a public institution.
I think that you're an institution. Well, okay, so I guess from all of this, so you've got Renaissance like, what in your childhood is, like, the prequel for all of this? It feels like, who were you when you were a kid that, were you climbing trees? Were you, like, a gifted kid? Like, where was your I mean, because there's just so much here that, like, you know you're never satisfied. You're always finding something new. You're in beekeeping, which, is a I mean, for me, it's a hobby. For you, it's your job, but it's a job where, like, there's just continual learning. Like, there's no end to beekeeping. Like, there's nobody who can sit there and say, like, "I'm an expert in this forever and ever, amen." Like, there's always something new to learn.
Yeah.
Guess, like, where did this come from? Are your parents specifically cool?
They're cool as hell. I love both my parents. Yeah, I was actually trying to figure it out the other day, and I think the main driver for me is just I'm always searching for novel things. I'm, like, addicted to novelty, and all of my work allows me to, like, not stagnate, which is great. But as a kid, it's funny, I was just doing the same stuff. I was obsessed with bugs, monarch caterpillars especially, anything tiny. I was obsessed with anything tiny. I was obsessed with drawing. I've always been illustrating, drawing, painting. In high school, I was, like, winning awards, like, for art and jewelry. So I've always been creative, I would say, is, like, probably the way most people would describe me when I was little. Um, and then, like, the construction stuff, like, I definitely was very inspired by mostly my dad because my parents, like, I always had this fantasy that I was gonna, like, meet a guy and we were gonna buy an old house and we would fix it up together just like my mom and dad did, even though it was probably a big, insane part of their marriage. But then as I got older and never met a guy, I was just like, "Well, I'm just gonna do this by myself." But I was very inspired by my dad and the fact that my dad did all of the renovations on my childhood home, and he did it mostly on his own with, like, the help of my grandpa, and I don't know, I've never I've never had anybody be like, "You can't do that." It was always just, like, kind of there's that great Steve Jobs quote where he was just like, "Everything that you see was made by a person." And, like, there's nothing stopping you from being a person who makes that thing. And so it's like, I'm not gonna go into this, building, into this house that I own and be afraid of it. Like, I was very empowered by a lot of really cool people to be like, "You can fix this. Like, you can learn how to repair this." So, yeah, I don't know. I had really cool people growing up, and I think it's an Aquarian thing. Maybe you can speak to this too, that we're just, like, crazy and we just are so ourselves, and I feel like I've just been myself my whole life, and I've stayed really true to that, and it's kind of like a guiding light. And the other big thing that happened to me is this was in, like, I don't remember when this was, maybe '06 or '08. I had a friend who I was involved with, like, these really cool street artists that I had met through my school, my college, and one of them was murdered, like, he was stabbed to death in Chicago, and I was with him at the party before he was stabbed to death, but he was, like, a graphic designer and a street artist, and he was just, like, amazing and, like, so industrious, and he was up all night, getting up in the streets, like, with tagging and stuff like that, and then he would go to his corporate job in the morning, and after he was killed, I was just like, "I'm never gonna be unhappy at a job ever again in my life." Like, I cannot live that lifestyle. 'Cause you could be murdered in your 20s,
Mhm.
like, and that was a
How was
really big thing for me.
Why was he murdered? Like, was it random?
He was stabbed to death. Yeah, it was kinda random. He got in a petty fight at a
Wow.
party, and he was just stabbed by this crazy dude.
That'll wake you up. I mean, not him, but I mean, that sounded terrible. But, that's I mean, that's kind of what the pandemic did to me is like, I could die tomorrow. I need to do whatever I need to do to, like, make myself happy and be who I
Yes.
am because
Yeah.
I could die tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, in the beekeeping world, um, there aren't a ton of women. I mean, there are women. I mean, most of the beekeepers I know in Chicago are women.
Right.
When I do meet when I meet beekeepers and they find out that I keep bees, they don't there's no interest. Like, it's almost like, it's like, "Oh, okay," and they don't it's like it's there's no follow-up questions, and I'm like, "Well, we both do the same thing," and I guess you are a person who's got bona fides coming out of your ass when it comes to beekeeping and you know who you are. How do you feel like the beekeeping world makes you? How do you feel about the world of beekeeping and the community that you keep within it?
Yeah, very good question. I don't know, I've always had a very mixed relationship with it. I feel like the times very early on in my beekeeping career that I would, like, go to meetings with bee clubs, or, like, meet older beekeepers, like older white male beekeepers. Yeah, the same thing, not a lot of interest. I would get kinda like the pat on the head, like, "Oh, good for you," and then I'd be like, "Yeah, I have, like, 35 hives." They'd be like, "Oh," you know? Um so I don't know, I found it kind of like a challenging environment, and I kinda just stopped being interested in being part of, like, a group.
Mhm.
But there's some really nicer groups forming now. I like the Cook DuPage Beekeepers Association. They're really nice, welcoming people. Um, but yeah, early on, it just was kind of like and then I was very, like, uh I'm very turned off by, like and I give this advice to my, like, people that I work with now, the people who I mentor who are starting out, is just, like, don't have, like, the opinions of, like, 5,000,000 people raining down on you. Just find a couple people who you really trust and go with their advice because there's so many ways you can go in beekeeping that I don't want them to be, like, feeling awash in information without anything to do because you could certainly try 5,000,000 different things, but, like, why not try something that somebody with a little bit of authority in your region can speak to. Um, but yeah, I feel like at this point I've found some really wonderful beekeepers that I don't know, like I vibe with really well,
Mhm.
and I don't feel super driven to like be part of a
Marginalized?
yeah, I don't feel marginalized anymore, and I think part of that is just sticking with it long enough that I'm not just like a passing fad. That it's like, oh yeah, no, Jana Bike-a-Bee, that's an institution more or less at this point. But yeah, I feel like I found a good groove, and I really love mentoring people one on one. When I can be a part of like a larger, group or association, I welcome that. But yeah, beekeepers and farmers, especially if beekeepers, especially out of farmers, are really like independent and outspoken and opinionated. So I almost feel like in some ways, some beekeepers just like it doesn't mesh well to be like I don't know. We're just all weirdos.
Mhm. Not normal people that keep bees. I mean,
No,
and I feel like that's where I'm kind of like, I mean, I've talked on this podcast about my situation with my neighbor and um it's not done. It's not ending. It will never end, I think. And I think they're just trying to get me to
die.
like just wear me down so I get rid of it. I mean, I don't know if my neighbor has like naked photographs of like the officials that they are like afraid they're gonna get out or something, and that's why they're all like kowtowing to her on a level that I have never seen any. I mean, I don't understand it. Um, but it's like it's a very misunderstood thing in many ways. And it's like yeah, the things I either get when people talk to me about it are either like, "Good for you, you're saving the world," and I'm like, "Well, that's" you know, I mean, little old me, I'm not saving the world. But then the other side of it is like, bees aren't nearly as endangered as you think they are, and if you think you're doing this for the environment and I'm like, "I don't you know what? I'm doing this because that's the thing I like to do." I mean,
It's your
you know
hobby and it's your right to have that as a hobby. Like, who cares the reasons why you're doing it? Like, if it's noble or not noble, like everybody has hobbies. Like people are in their backyards gardening. They're in their backyards building sheds. Like, everybody's just doing what they do in the world, but somehow beekeeping is like extremely polarizing and controversial. Like everyone has to have a big opinion about it. And I don't necessarily think anyone needs to be a beekeeper that has this like noble like, mission. It's just like you like to do it,
well, and,
period.
they also, like, exist in the world. Like they're like bees are just there. Like we're just corralling some of them. Like, there has to be natural hives in the world. They're not all managed by beekeepers.
Right.
And so it's like the idea like in when I when I kept my bees in the city, I would oftentimes get asked like, "Oh, do your neighbors freak out?" I'm like, "No, why would my neighbors freak out?" Like, I always thought it was so weird that people would ask me that question. I'm like, in fact, people normally are like, "Yay, you." So it was quite a shock when I moved out here and, I moved next to literally the only person in the city of Evanston that has problems with bees. But, it is something that, I'm really glad that you do, and I'm glad that you brought yourself into my life because I really need your help a lot of times.
I'm so glad to know you and work with you too, it's mutual.
You know what I was just I just came into my head. I remember when I didn't this is well before I knew you, but, you got, like, hit by a car or something, and there was, like, a whole thing around what was that?
Yeah, what was that, like, 9 years ago,
Oh,
I
jeez.
was, I was riding my bike and a car pulled up next to me and somebody in the rear passenger side window reached out and grabbed a hold of, like, my messenger bag, not with the intention of stealing it, but just of grabbing onto me, and I heard everybody in the car, like, laughing, and the guy held on to me and they sped up the car, and then they, like, let go of me at the same time that I hit a parked car to my right, and I fell on the ground, and they just drove away. So it was like an attack, and I think it was reclassified as, like, an assault or a battery or something by the police, but yeah, it was messed up.
Did it did they ever find the people?
No, and I live a life with very few regrets, but my one regret is that I didn't ask anybody to go after the car. Like, people came to my aid and, like, stopped the car to come and help me, but I should have been like, "Go after that man!" But I didn't, and I regret it, but, yeah, it was insane. I was on the news the next morning,
Yeah, I
like,
saw the news.
every news agency in the Chicagoland region came out to my little apartment and interviewed me about it, and yeah, it got picked up everywhere, and everyone was really, like, because it was really messed up, but I was also just this I think one of the news agencies called me a local character. Local character, Jana Kinsman. But
You hurt?
yeah, I was got bruised up and battered, and this is the crazy part, I over the next 8 years, I suffered 3 shoulder dislocations, and I never really got it checked out because, insurance, America, medical,
Yeah.
whatever, blah, blah, blah. I finally got an MRI and, like, an orthopedic opinion about it, but I had a torn labrum, and all these dislocations had, like, loosened up my shoulder to the point where, after the final dislocation, which happened, like, 3 years ago, they were like, "You gotta get this fixed." So, I had shoulder surgery, which took me out of beekeeping for, like, an entire season, 2 years ago, which was really, really hard, but that was, years later, I paid thousands of dollars because of that one night when I was
Mhm.
attacked while riding my bike. It was so messed up, but I'm all
And
better
so,
now.
was your bike messed up?
Oh, yeah, that bike was
Yeah, yeah.
totaled.
I mean, of course.
But I had 3
Oh my
bikes, so I
god.
was like an insane person, so it was fine. But yeah, I couldn't ride
Extreme.
it. Yeah, I couldn't ride the bike and, my shoulder at the time hurt really bad, for a long, long time, but I didn't know how messed up it was until years later, almost a decade later.
So, like, I feel like you're an inspiration in so many ways. I mean, it's like you go after whatever it is that you wanna do with this gusto, like and I guess I don't I feel like there are people that could look at you and say, "Oh, man, she's so amazing. I could never do what she does." And, like, to somebody that would think that way, like, what would you say? Like, how would you give the advice for somebody to, like, go after whatever dream or whatever? And I've never asked anybody this kinda question before, but I'm just like, I don't it's like, is it in your energy and you're like, "I don't know how to tell you I don't know how to be anything different," or, like, because it seems like you're able to, like, hook into these zeitgeists, like making a collective, going and using Kickstarter, like, seeing this guy driving around. I don't think honestly, the concept of somebody riding their bike around to do beekeeping, I mean, given the amount of, like, equipment and, just, like, when you get propolis on your hands and you can't touch anything and you gotta go from one place to another, I mean, are your handlebars and your bike just covered in propolis?
Oh, yeah.
But just, like, the idea that you're like, "I'm gonna make this into a thing that I would never think that could," like, I would never think to create a biking co or a company. I'm riding my bike everywhere, and then when you made the crossover, like, there had to be a point where you had to, like, get a car, I'm assuming, because you, uh, had to stop being the biker, and was that,
Yeah.
like, a moment?
Yeah, it's been an ongoing evolving moment. And the real issue is that I have way more hives and I have apiaries that have way more hives at a single location. So I can't like if I was still, 35 hives, Jana Bike-a-Bee, I could still be totally doing it by bike. But I have a couple apiaries where there's like, over a dozen hives. And so at a single time, the amount of equipment that I need to bring out to that apiary is more than I can carry on my bike trailer, comfortably. And so, I got a my grandparents gave me their old PT Cruiser, and I used that for years as the Bike-a-Bee car, and now I have this little jelly bean hatchback. I really wish I had, like, a nice like Trevor has a Transit Connect, and that's a really nice car for hauling stuff, but yeah, I still if it's just a maintenance thing, I'm still going to the apiaries by bike, but when I need to bring a significant amount of equipment, I have to use a vehicle. And also having further flung, apiaries that are like I have an apiary in Beverly, and it would be really dangerous to get there by bike, so I'm doing that one
Yeah.
by car. Yeah.
But
But to
to go back to the
answer
inspiration.
yeah, it's funny because you were noticing yourself, that moment in time in my life with the people around me when I created both Doodlebooth and Bike-a-Bee, there was just that energy, and there's certainly, I have to acknowledge, certain privileges too of just, I was healthy and able-bodied, and I had a huge network of people. I never had, a lot of money, but I was always willing and I understood just through life experiences, and bike touring teaches you this a lot. It's like, you really don't need that much. Like, you truly need, shelter and food. And so much of the stuff that I learned around that 2010 period, and some of it mostly through that guy I was dating who I was really fascinated with, was just, how to make your own food, like, how to stretch things really far, like, how to be really, thrifty. I've always had a big passion for garbage and reuse and all those things, so I was always willing to live kind of at a substandard level to make myself, happy. And I've always had a very even today, it's funny, I think, I have conversations with friends that are, wildly successful, and they're like, "Okay, here's what you need to do." So and they, are coming up with these business ideas, and I'm like, "Yeah, but that sounds like a lot of work that I don't wanna do," and it's like, the reason for wanting to do it is to have more money, and I kinda just wanna have as little money as possible. I don't have any desire to have more than what I have right now, and every time I get bigger, it's just so that I can, my standard of living starts to change slightly, or, now that I, have a house and all that stuff, my expenses have gone down in some ways, but then have gone up in other ways, but
Mhm.
just what I'm trying to say is, a big part of both of my businesses and all of my endeavors is just, what is really intriguing to me, and how do I do it at a level that's really satisfying and fun, that addresses my basic needs in a monetary sense, but most importantly, how does it like, in a lifestyle sense, am I happy? Am I enjoying doing it? And I think, starting both of those businesses at that age with the resources that I had and the friends that I had kind of was the big enabler, and it's just a lot harder to talk to people now that I'm, late 30s. A lot of my friends have children, it's harder to take those big risks to go do that fun, spontaneous business thing. Um, so I really the advice is really hard to give now, and it's, really, I have to tailor it to everybody's
Mhm.
specific thing where they're at. So, when I really love talking with young people because they have that energy, and I can talk with them and be like, "You can do these crazy things now, and you really should start planting the seed for that," because yeah. Oh, I was talking with my friend Alex, he said he was, speaking with somebody, and the person was trying to start a beekeeping business, and Alex was like, "Oh, you should speak to Jana." And so then Alex gave me the heads up, like, "Hey, there's this guy. He wants some advice on starting a beekeeping business." And I'm like, I have no idea how to advise that because, like, I just, like, started a project and then the whole success of my project is my entire lifestyle. Like, everything I've done in my life has been, like, married alongside Bike-a-Bee and, like, all my other little endeavors. So it's like a lifestyle choice. It's not like, how do you start a business? It's like, when I was young, it was just like, how do I turn this into my life and make it work somehow?
That's such an interesting way to see it, because the thing is I think that what you just
I'm sure you
described,
could
though,
speak to that
is like
totally, the
every
way your
entrepreneur.
business has grown.
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I mean, I it's funny because I feel like, I think and I think you're saying that kind of the same thing. It's like I look at what my business is now and, like, I don't know how I would advise somebody to do this now because there's so many more, like, technologies and, it's like, in some ways it's way easier, but it's also super saturated. When I started my business, probably the exact same thing for you was there were very few, you know, DJ companies. There probably still is very few beekeeping companies. I mean, there's a lot of beekeepers. I don't know of wonder if, like, what the code is for a beekeeper in, like, the census or whatever, but I guess my point to all of that is that when you are becoming an entrepreneur, in many ways, it's because you need your lifestyle to be around your business. Like, you're not most people who start a business aren't like, "Well, I'm gonna start a business and I'm gonna work from 9 to 5, and that's all I'm gonna work, and eventually I'll turn a profit." Like, no, you're sorry, you now have a spouse that is your business that needs to constantly be fed and tended. I guess it's more of like a child. And, it's more maybe it's more recognizing that about yourself is like when you think about starting a business, like, what is your life like now and how do you want it to be different and, like, making the business kind of, like, blob on that.
Yeah,
It's a very eloquent way
exactly.
to say it.
No, but it's like, yeah, what are you willing to, like, give up? Like, what creature comforts are you willing to give up? Like, how long are you comfortable not having any money for this thing? Like, at what point are you gonna throw in the towel? Like, I think it was, like, yeah, year 7, I was like, "I'm not doing this anymore." Like, I miss having money. Like, I was, like, not making any money. This wasn't I didn't know how to make it work, and I almost threw in the towel with the Bike-a-Bee thing. But, you have to be willing to get really uncomfortable, and I think a
Mhm,
lot of people have a lot of, they don't have tolerance for, like, low risk tolerance, and I think that's a very real, like, thing that hinders people. And it's also just, the amount of upfront work and, like, finding that really cool concept that I just happened to stumble into both of those things and they evolved with me. Um, that's kinda just you don't know when that's gonna happen or if you're gonna get that, and I think, a lot of people who pursue their own businesses or are entrepreneurs, like, those things bomb. It just
mhm,
wasn't the right time, but I built into both of my businesses this is another key aspect. I built into both of my businesses that it was all, like, mostly just my labor. So with Doodlebooth, my overhead is, like, paper, pens,
mhm, mhm,
so it wasn't like I
and your
was
scanner.
going into debt. Yeah, exactly, one-time purchase of a scanner, and then with Bike-a-Bee, it was just my own labor, and I just had to make enough money every year to, like, buy new colonies if I needed it and then buy more equipment, and every year, Bike-a-Bee got bigger because I made just a little bit more, so I was able to buy a little bit more equipment. I never took on any debt, I never took out any loans. The Kickstarter thing was the only thing, and I got a couple grants, like, along the way, like, I got the Frontera grant a couple years ago, but I never had any debt with either business. So it made for very slow growing, which was able to
Mhm,
happen because I lived the lifestyle that I did where I didn't need much. But for a lot of people, that's not an option, especially as you get older.
mhm.
So how
Well,
do
and I
you
think
find that thing, that's gonna be really tiny and you can just let it grow? And some people have a little thing that they let it grow while they have their full-time job, and that's great. So yeah, I don't know. Every situation is unique.
Well, and I think also just living lean is such a I mean, and it's hard because once you start getting one, it's like a mo money, mo problems thing, and like
Oh yeah, that
you
is so
wanna
true.
I didn't have any debt at all, 0 until the pandemic.
Absolutely, yeah.
On the other and now I had to take out a $150,000 loan that it's a 30-year loan,
Oh my
and,
gosh.
and I've never had debt. Like, that was it's and it kills me, and I'm like, one of these things where I'm like, "Why didn't that get forgiven?" Like, I had to take that money out to make my business happen. Everything else was forgiven. I'm sure that there's, like, giant corporations that, took millions of dollars they didn't need, and it's like, "God, I wish someone would just give me the $140,000 I need to, like,
Right?
pay off this stupid loan that I have," but
Exactly.
that I had to take out to, like, keep my business. Like, I don't think I'd be here right now if I hadn't taken out that loan, but I also wasn't planning for a pandemic, so,
No.
anyway. Well, Jana, we've hit an hour, which is crazy,
Oh my god.
and you're a goddamn inspiration. How can people find you? Can they buy your honey?
Um, they can buy my honey, bikeabee.com/store. Bike-a-Bee
Can
on
they buy it online?
Instagram. Yeah. Oh yeah, I ship everywhere.
Oh, what do you charge for shipping?
What it costs, I think it's like, if you get it to, like, way Nowhereville, California, it's like $11, but everywhere else it's somewhere between 6 and $8 for 2
Oh,
jars, 3 jars, 4 jars.
cool. Alright, Jana, well, thank you so much for being on All Up in My Lady Business.
This was a delight. I had so much fun. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to All Up in My Lady Business with me, Mary Nisi. We'd love for you to like, review, subscribe, follow us at All Up in My Lady Business on the gram. And if you're a female identifying person and you want to dance, you can follow. I mean, everybody can follow it, but if you want to be a part of the magic at Hot Flash Dance Party, sign up for the mailing list to find out where our next party is going to be. And if you are looking for a DJ in the Chicagoland area or anywhere else, money's the same color everywhere. Fly us out. ToastandJamDJs.com has the best. And listen to my radio show. I have a radio show on Chirp Radio at chirpradio.org. That's Mondays, every Monday from 12 until 3 p.m. CST. Today's episode is produced by Shiraz Dada. Theme song composed and performed by, you guessed it, Shiraz Dada. All right, guys. Peace out.